Disney is finding itself in a battle not only in court, but now in public with superstar Scarlett Johansson. As I covered at the end of last week, Scarlett Johansson has sued Disney, alleging $50 million in damages over their decision to release Black Widow simultaneously on Disney Plus, along with a theatrical release. You can watch that video for the full details if you want, but we'll cover the basis of them in a second, just sort of a quick rundown. But now we've got other actresses talking about suing Disney, and we've got a back and forth over the weekend that occurred, which shows that this battle is heating up, not cooling down. The question is, will this get negotiated out in a back room, or will this fight end up being public and going into court? If it is public, expect fireworks from both sides, because right now, both of them look like no one is interested in backing down. Let's talk about this. I'm Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. I'm a lawyer. I'm also a legal and political commentator on YouTube and on Odyssey. Wherever you're watching, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on your notifications. Make sure you don't miss any videos. Okay, so here we have this from MovieWeb, and this is the most recent update in what's going on, where Scarlett Johansson's talent agency is now entering the fray. And this, to me, is actually pretty interesting because, okay, so ScarJo says to herself, I'm never going to get another Disney movie deal again. I'm going all in. I'm going to sue him for $50 million. I'm going to blast him in public. We're going to make this fight in public. Disney comes back and goes after ScarJo, which we'll cover in a little bit. But then to have the talent agency, which ostensibly represents other actors and actresses who may be working with Disney or looking for Disney projects, for them to come out backing ScarJo on this is pretty interesting because, I mean, the easy thing for Disney to do is just never work with any of these people ever again. But here we are. Here we are in a public fight. And the question of who wins in a public fight between the mouse and anybody else almost always comes down to the mouse winning. Disney has immense public power. They have a bunch of public goodwill, and they tend to be able to bludgeon their opponents into the dirt, and they have for a very, very long time. Because regardless of the business practices of Disney, everybody just remembers the cartoons and movies that they love. And they go, oh, it's such a wonderful place. I remember taking my kids to Disney World, and we had such a good time, even though I'm now broke. That's how this has worked out for Disney in the past. But we not only have Scarlett Johansson leading the charge on this, we also have indications that Emma Stone and Emily Blunt may be looking at similar lawsuits over Jungle Cruise and Cruella having simultaneous releases as well. They're now saying that these simultaneous releases impacted their box office sales, their box office earning potential. And I mean, that is definitely true. The question is what extent the damage, what extent of damage was caused by the simultaneous release. We know that box office numbers are necessarily lower because if even one person gets it on the streaming service, that's one person who would have had to go to the theater. Now, it doesn't linearly translate one-to-one because not everybody who streams it would have definitely gone to the theater, but if there were no other option, the sale on Disney Plus wouldn't have occurred, and any person considering it would have had to go contribute to the box office. So we know, of course, the numbers are large enough on these things that we know that at least some people chose to stay home and watch it rather than going to the box office. That impacts sales. Not really a big deal, except when you consider that the compensation, bonus compensation for these actors and actresses are tied to box office performance in the contracts. So if they're going to hit $500 million, they're going to get a big bonus. And that big bonus only comes if the box office numbers come in that way. Well, if you've got a bunch of people hitting a streaming service instead of hitting the box office, suddenly you have reduced the bonus earning potential of the person. Now, There's a whole lot of argument from Disney that's possible here. They're going to argue that the pandemic is the cause of the lower box office and all of that stuff. Declining interest in the Black Widow character. They could even cite to various commentators online criticizing the movie either as being woke or just generally unlikable or having a bad plot or whatever it is. They just say the movie doesn't suit the tastes of the audience. They have a lot of defense to go with here. However, one of the problems that they have is that they earned quite a bit of money on their streaming service from this movie, $60 million. And their stock was positively impacted after the announcement of that $60 million success on the streaming service. If that $60 million was enough to tip the scales away from Scarlett Johansson earning bonus money, then she's got a valid claim in court. Now, most places have handled this by just offering bonuses as an alternative to the original negotiations. Look, these contracts were signed in 2018, 2019, whatever. We had to release on streaming because of COVID and the impact that it's had on the movie theater industry, blah, 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 blah. Let's work out some deal. Now, Scarlett has alleged that they didn't even talk to her. They did not re-enter the negotiating arena. They just went ahead and did this without regard for how it would affect her income. And that could be the problem for Disney. But let's get on to what has happened here. Disney. So after Scarlett Johansson files this lawsuit, it gets a lot of press. And Disney actually goes ahead and attacks Scarlett Johansson. This is indicating they're prepping for the fight, right? And in that statement, they talk about how Scarlett Johansson has already made $20 million off of this movie, and now she's just trying to fleece Disney for more, and she's being very, very, here's the virtue signal, right? She's being very insensitive about COVID and everybody who has died and how dangerous the pandemic was, and we're just a humble Disney company. We really care about the pandemic, and we definitely aren't interested in making money. That's how their statement was worded. That's what they did. So they went after Scarlett Johansson to attempt to show her as a greedy person who doesn't care about this pandemic. Okay, that's how they worded the statement. So the talent agency seems to be pretty pissed off about it. Here's their quote. They have shamelessly and falsely accused Miss Johansson of being insensitive to the global COVID pandemic in an attempt to make her appear to be someone they and I know she isn't. Disney's direct attack on her character and all else they implied is beneath the company that many of us in the creative industry or creative community have worked with successfully for decades. The company included her salary in their press statement in an attempt to weaponize her success as an artist and businesswoman as if that were something she should be ashamed of. Scarlett is extremely proud of the work that she and all the actors, writers, directors, producers, and the Marvel creative team have been part of for well over a decade. And that is at the root of everything. I've seen a bunch of comments online that Scarlett Johansson made a bunch of money and she should just deal with it. And yeah, she did make a bunch of money. She made part of what she was entitled to, though. Disney agreed on a scheme that could have resulted in her making more money and then undermined the scheme when they should have found a way to renegotiate to suit the needs of both parties. That's how contracts are supposed to work. But in this case, it didn't. If what ScarJo says is true, she is entitled to some higher level of compensation than what she's got. Now, she's going to have to prove out in court what that would be, how much she'd be entitled to, but Disney will have the job of trying to mitigate that. But we'll see. I thought it early on it would be possible that they would go and negotiate this out. They'd say, whoops, oversight on our part. We should have negotiated this out. Sorry, we didn't get back to you, whatever. Let's figure out a sum and move on with our lives and make nice. Disney doesn't seem to be interested in doing that right now, at least, or they're posturing. We'll have to follow along to see how it goes. But with the other stars, Emma Stone and Emily Blunt coming in and weighing their options against Disney, it leads to some interesting conclusions. We'll see if they jump on board. I think, a lot of these movies have zero appeal to me. I didn't have any interest in Black Widow or Cruella or Jungle Cruise. Don't care about any of it. Don't really care about how any of them do. But if they had compensation packages that were actually undermined by Disney, then they may have claims. That's what we're looking at here. Drop a comment down below. Tell me what you think about all this. And until next time, thanks for watching. Peace. Peace.